My wife emptied our joint savings to pay for her sick mother's treatment. Now I've discovered the money went to her secret boyfriend. I'm a 36-year-old man, and I've been married to Claire for almost 7 years. We've had our share of ups and downs, but until a few months ago, I truly believed she was my partner in every sense of the word. That illusion shattered the night I logged into our joint bank account to transfer money for a home renovation project, and saw that nearly $48,000 was gone. When I asked Claire about it, she broke down in tears and told me her mother had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer. She said the hospital bills were piling up, and she didn't want to burden me with the stress of knowing her family couldn't afford treatment. She claimed she'd been covering the costs quietly, hoping her mom would recover, and we could rebuild our savings later. I was stunned. Not because I didn't believe her. Claire is the kind of person who cries over rescue dogs in commercials, but because she'd made such a massive decision without even telling me. I swallowed my frustration and told her the money didn't matter if it meant saving her mom's life. For the next month, Claire was constantly at the hospital. She'd leave early in the morning, come back late, sometimes not until after midnight. She looked exhausted, her clothes smelled faintly of antiseptic, and she carried hospital cafeteria receipts in her purse. Every time I offered to visit her mom with her, she said it was too painful, and that her mom didn't want visitors while she was so sick. Then one night, while she was supposedly at the hospital, I stopped by her mother's house unannounced to drop off some groceries. Her mom answered the door in a floral robe, looking perfectly healthy. No sign of weakness, no bald spots from chemo, nothing. When I gently asked about her treatment, she frowned and said, "Treatment? I haven't been sick. I don't know what Claire's been telling you, but I'm fine." My blood went cold. I drove home in silence, my mind replaying every lie she'd told me. The antiseptic smell, the hospital receipts, the too tired to talk nights. And then it hit me. The only thing she'd actually shown me was bank transfers and emotional performances. Everything else had been words. That night, I didn't confront her immediately. I waited. I needed more than just her mother's statement. I needed proof she couldn't explain away. So, I set up location sharing on her phone without her knowing, linking it to my laptop. The next time she said she was heading to the hospital, I watched the dot on the screen. It didn't go to the hospital. It went to a luxury apartment complex on the other side of town. And it stayed there for hours. The betrayal I felt in that moment was like nothing I've ever experienced before. When I saw that little blue dot on my laptop stop moving at the luxury apartment building, I just sat there staring at the screen for a good 5 minutes, my mind numb. My first instinct was denial. Maybe she was visiting a friend. Maybe it was something innocent. But deep down, I knew exactly what it meant. I waited until she'd been there for almost 3 hours before I got in my car. The drive across town felt surreal. My hands gripped the wheel so tightly that my knuckles were white. Every red light felt like it was mocking me, stretching the moment out, making me marinate in the anger that was building inside. The building was a high-rise with a doorman, sleek glass doors, and valet parking. It was the kind of place you didn't live in unless you had money to burn, or unless someone was burning it for you. I parked down the street and waited, my eyes locked on the entrance. Eventually, just after 11 p.m. the doors opened, and there she was, Claire, laughing. Her hair was a little messy, her makeup smudged, and she was holding onto the arm of a man I'd never seen before. He was tall, fit, and dressed in a crisp white shirt that was unbuttoned just enough to look casual but expensive. I took out my phone and started recording. They kissed, deep, slow, like they had all the time in the world. Then he handed her a small black gift bag, the kind that screamed jewelry. She looked inside, smiled, and kissed him again. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I might be sick. That was our money in her hands. Not just the bag, but the entire life she was living with him. I knew in that moment that this wasn't some fling. She wasn't slipping away for a night or two of excitement. She had a second life. One she'd been funding behind my back with the savings we'd built together. I followed them when they left. They walked hand in hand to a black Audi parked in the private lot. He opened the door for her, like they were some kind of power couple, and they drove off. I stayed far enough behind not to be noticed. They ended up at a late-night restaurant, the kind with dim lighting and $60 on trays. I sat in my car across the street, watching through the big front windows as they laughed, touched hands across the table, and looked at each other like they were in some romantic movie. The longer I watched, the more I realized this wasn't just about the money. It was about everything I'd believed we were. I'd been at home, paying bills, cooking dinner, worrying about her sick mother, while she was out here playing rich girlfriend with another man. I stayed until they left the restaurant. He drove her back to the apartment, and she went upstairs. She didn't come out again. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I pulled up our bank records, and went through them line by line. There were wire transfers to an account I didn't recognize, ATM withdrawals near the apartment, and purchases from high-end stores I knew I'd never set foot in. By the time I was done, I could account for almost every dollar of the missing $48,000, and none of it had gone to her mother. The next day, I called a private investigator. I gave him her photo, the address of the apartment building, and everything I'd seen. I wanted him to dig up everything, who the guy was, how long it had been going on, where my money had gone. 3 days later, the PI called me back. His voice was calm, almost too calm. Her boyfriend's name is Adam. He's a personal trainer and your wife's been seeing him for at least 9 months. The money, she's been paying his rent, bought him a motorcycle, and even covered a vacation they took to Bali 2 months ago. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Bali. While I'd been working 12-hour shifts, and thinking she was taking care of her dying mother, she'd been lying on a beach with him halfway across the world. The PI sent me photos, dozens of them. Claire in a bikini, smiling with Adam on the sand, her hand on his chest. Claire kissing him by an infinity pool. Claire feeding him bites of dessert in a candlelit restaurant. Every single picture was a knife to the gut. That night, I didn't confront her. I wanted her to dig herself even deeper. I wanted her to tell me another lie so I could watch it fall apart in her mouth when I put the evidence in front of her. But I also knew something else. If I played this wrong, she'd find a way to take even more from me before it was over. So I started planning. The morning I decided to confront Claire, I didn't start it like a fight. I made her breakfast, coffee, scrambled eggs, toast. I wanted her comfortable, off guard. She came into the kitchen wearing one of my t-shirts, hair messy, eyes puffy like she'd barely slept. She kissed me on the cheek and muttered, "Morning, babe," like nothing was wrong. I sat across from her, sipping my coffee, and watched her eat. Every little movement she made felt calculated now. How she avoided eye contact for too long. How her phone was always face down on the table. My heart was pounding, but my voice was steady when I asked, "So how's your mom doing?" Her fork paused mid-air for half a second, just enough for me to notice, before she put on the mask. "She's stable," she said, "still in treatment. I'm going to see her again tomorrow." I nodded. Funny. I was looking at the bank statements last night, and I noticed the payments to her clinic stopped 2 months ago. She froze. I could see the wheels turning in her head, calculating whether to double down or pivot. She set her fork down slowly, eyes narrowing. "Are you checking up on me now?" "I'm just asking where the money went, Claire. $48,000 doesn't just disappear." That's when she laughed, an ugly, sarcastic little laugh. "Wow. After everything I've been dealing with, you're going to interrogate me like some kind of criminal." I didn't break eye contact. "Maybe that's because I hired someone who did treat you like a criminal." "And he found Adam." Her face drained of color. For a moment, she just stared at me, like she was trying to read whether I was bluffing. Then, in a voice that was way too calm, she said, "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled my phone out of my pocket and tapped the screen. Photo after photo filled the table between us, her and Adam in Bali, on the beach, in his apartment. Receipts of wire transfers. Screenshots of her booking his motorcycle in full. Claire's hands started shaking. "It's not what it looks like," she whispered. I almost laughed. "Really? Because it looks like you took our life savings and used it to fund your little vacation romance, while I was here working and thinking your mother was dying." Her eyes filled with tears. "But they weren't the kind you cry when you're sorry. They were the kind you cry when you're caught." "Oh, I was going to tell you," she said. "It just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I leaned back, feeling this cold, bitter satisfaction settle in. "It went far enough for you to pay his rent. Far enough for you to disappear for 2 weeks and send me hospital updates that were complete lies." Her tears turned into anger. "You don't get it. You haven't been there for me in years. You work all the time. You barely even look at me anymore." Adam made me feel alive again. That was it. The classic deflection, turning her betrayal into my fault. I felt this burning calm take over, like my rage had crystallized into something sharper. I stood up, walked to the kitchen counter, and slid a thick envelope across the table toward her. She frowned. "What's this?" "Divorce papers," I said. "Already signed by me. You can either sign them now and walk out with nothing but your clothes, or I can take every bit of evidence I have to the court, to your family, and, if you push me, your employer." Her jaw tightened. "You wouldn't." I stepped closer, lowered my voice. "I already did. Your boss will get the photos by noon if you don't sign. And Adam, let's just say his landlord won't be so patient when I stop covering his rent with my money." She looked at the envelope like it was poison. For the first time since this started, I saw real fear in her eyes. But I didn't give her a choice. Not anymore. Claire didn't sign. Not immediately. She sat there, staring at the envelope, breathing hard, like she was calculating her next move. And I could see it. She was already trying to figure out how to flip this. How to guilt me. How to make herself the victim again. She finally pushed the envelope back toward me with 2 fingers. "No," she said. "If you want to end this, we're doing it my way. You don't get to threaten me and think I'll just roll over." I laughed, because it was almost funny. How little she understood the position she was in. "Claire, you've already lost. This is me giving you an exit without being humiliated. If you push me, you'll get the full humiliation package." Her lips curled into a smirk. "You think you're the only one who can play dirty. You know what happens if I tell people you've been verbally abusive. That you've been controlling every dollar I spend for years. People will believe me. They always believe the woman." It was a cheap shot, and it might have scared another guy. But I wasn't bluffing. When I said I was ready to burn this to the ground, I leaned in until I was inches from her face. "And when they ask for proof, Claire, when the screenshots, the bank records, the flight tickets to Bali, and the photos of you with Adam show up, when you're sick, mother confirms she hasn't been to a hospital in over a year. How's that going to work for you?" She swallowed hard. For the first time, I saw that flicker of doubt. But she still wasn't done. That's when she tried her last desperate card. She reached across the table, grabbed my hand, and put on that fake softness she used to use when she wanted something. "Listen, we can fix this. Please. We were good once. We can be good again. Forget Adam. I'll end it with him tonight. We can start fresh. I'll even put the money back. Just please don't throw this away." For a second, I just looked at her, studying the way her voice trembled just enough, the way her eyes glistened like she was holding back tears. If I didn't know what I knew, if I didn't have the proof, maybe I would have fallen for it. But I did know, and I wasn't about to save her from the consequences of what she did. I pulled my hand away slowly. "You already threw this away, Claire. You just assumed I wouldn't notice until you were too far gone to be caught." Her face hardened instantly. "Fine. Then you'll regret this." She stood up, stormed into the bedroom, and started grabbing clothes and shoving them into a suitcase. I stayed in the kitchen, calm, sipping my coffee, because I knew the next part of my plan was already in motion. While she was packing, I sent one text: "She's leaving now. You know what to do." My friend Mark, who's also a locksmith, was waiting outside with a new set of locks. The moment her Uber pulled away, he'd be swapping them out. She wasn't going to walk back in here and pretend like she still owned a part of this life. 15 minutes later, she came out, dragging her suitcase, her face a mix of anger and smugness, like she thought she was the one walking away in control. "You'll call me," she said, as if it were a fact. "You'll realize you made a mistake." I just held the door open. "Goodbye, Claire." She left. Mark went to work. And within an hour, every lock was changed. That night, I sent the photos, the bank statements, and the receipts to her employer, along with a short, professional note. "I believe you should be aware of potential financial misconduct involving your employee." I didn't even have to embellish. The truth was enough to scorch the earth. By the next afternoon, she was blowing up my phone. "How could you? They fired me. I can't even pay for an apartment now. You ruined my life." But the thing is, she'd already done that herself. The thing about people like Claire is, they don't accept defeat gracefully. The minute she realized her cry and beg routine wasn't working, she switched to nuclear mode. The first sign was a Facebook post. The next morning, a long, dramatic wall of text, accusing me of years of emotional abuse, financial control, and psychological manipulation. She wrote about how I suffocated her dreams, isolated her from her family, and made her feel worthless every day. She even threw in a line about how I used her love as a leash. And, of course, she didn't forget to hint at possible physical intimidation, without actually saying it outright, just enough for her followers to fill in the blanks, and start commenting things like, "You're so brave for speaking out," and "Men like him deserve prison." For a couple of hours, it worked. Old friends of hers were chiming in with support, some even messaging me directly with insults. I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself, because I knew something she didn't. While she was trying to destroy me in public, I was sitting on a folder titled Claire, the Real Story. Inside was everything: screenshots of her texts with Adam, complete with hard images and flight confirmations, the PayPal transactions, labeled gift, the Airbnb receipt for a romantic weekend, conference trip, and even a selfie she sent him in the hotel mirror. The same weekend she told me she was staying with her mom to help with the treatments. And the cherry on top, a voice message from her actual mother, dated just a week earlier. "Sweetheart, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't been sick. Claire hasn't given me a dime. Is something wrong between you two?" So I waited. Let her little crowd of supporters grow. Let her bask in the sympathy. Then, around 3 p.m. I posted a single comment on her thread. "Since we're sharing the truth publicly, Here are some receipts. I attached 9 screenshots in a neat little carousel. No captions, no insults, just undeniable evidence. The shift was instant. Likes and hearts turned into shocked images. Supportive comments froze. Some people deleted their earlier messages. A few even started asking her questions. Claire, what is this? Did you really lie about your mom being sick? Is Adam your coworker? Claire panicked. She deleted the entire post within minutes. But the damage was already done. Half the people on her friends list had already seen it. Some had even messaged me privately to apologize for believing her without asking questions. That night, she called me, screaming, crying, calling me a monster. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. You've ruined my life. I almost laughed. Claire, you ruined your own life. I just turned on the lights so everyone could see it. But she wasn't done. 2 days later, I got an email from HR at my company. Apparently, someone had submitted an anonymous complaint, accusing me of hostile behavior toward female employees. It was clearly her, but she underestimated something. My company actually investigates claims before taking action. Within hours, they'd closed it as unsubstantiated. She tried another move, spreading rumors to mutual friends that I had cheated on her. The problem was, she forgot people had seen my evidence already. The lies bounced right back. By the end of the week, Claire wasn't just out of a job. She was socially radioactive. Adam stopped replying to her. I can only imagine the awkward conversation they had when his name showed up in the screenshots. Her mother refused to let her move back in after hearing the truth. The last text she sent me that week was short and bitter. You win, but it didn't feel like a win. It felt like finally cutting out something rotten that had been poisoning me for years. I thought that was the end of it, but I didn't realize she had one last, reckless move left, one that could have dragged me into legal hell if I hadn't caught it in time. I should have known she wouldn't just disappear quietly. People like Claire don't retreat, they regroup. It was a Thursday afternoon when I got an official-looking envelope in the mail. It had that heavy paper in bold font that screams legal trouble. My stomach sank as soon as I read the header. Notice of application for emergency protective order. According to the document, Claire was accusing me of being physically aggressive toward her during our marriage and threatening her safety since our separation. She claimed she was terrified I would retaliate after she left. She even wrote that she feared for her life. And the kicker, if this order went through, I would be barred from my own house until a court hearing, meaning she could easily waltz back in and take whatever she wanted. Furniture, documents, electronics, gone. That's when I realized this wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about stripping me down to nothing. I immediately called my lawyer, who told me we had less than 48 hours to respond. The hearing was set for Monday morning. I spent that entire weekend pulling together every shred of evidence I had, not just of her affair, but of her calculated attempts to smear me. Screenshots of her bragging to Adam about draining him dry, the voice note from her mom saying she'd never been sick, the HR email dismissing her complaint, and texts where she literally admitted she was going to make him lose everything. Monday came, and I walked into that courtroom with my lawyer and a folder so thick it could choke a shredder. Claire was already there, sitting with a smug look like she'd already won. The judge listened to her statement first. She was in full performance mode, voice shaking, eyes glassy, the occasional dab of a tissue. She painted a picture of herself as a terrified, trapped wife who had finally escaped a cruel man. If I didn't know the truth, even I might have believed her. Then it was my turn. My lawyer didn't waste a second. She started with the affair, establishing Claire's motive to lie, then methodically walked through each piece of evidence. She played the voice message from her mom aloud in the courtroom. You could see the color drain from Claire's face. Then came the text to Adam, the ones where she literally laughed about making him pay for the rest of my life, and maybe calling the cops if he gets annoying. Gasps went around the room. The judge's eyebrows actually shot up. By the time my lawyer was done, Claire's terrified wife act had collapsed completely. The judge denied her petition on the spot, calling her claims unsupported and potentially malicious. But he didn't stop there. He warned her that filing false legal claims could result in criminal charges. I've never seen her look so small. I thought that would finally break her, but she still tried to glare at me as we left the courtroom. That glare said, I'm not done. The thing is, I am. I went home, changed the locks, and had my lawyer draft a notice making it clear she's not welcome on my property. I blocked her on every platform. I told our mutual friends they could believe whatever they wanted, but I wasn't engaging anymore. A week later, I heard through the grapevine that Adam had left her. Apparently, after seeing the courtroom disaster, he decided she was too much drama. She moved into a crappy studio apartment across town. I'd like to say I feel some satisfaction in that. And maybe, in some dark corner of me, I do. But mostly, I just feel tired. Like I've been holding my breath for months and I'm only now starting to exhale. Claire tried to take my money, my reputation, my home, and even my freedom. She failed. But I know her well enough to understand she'll spin this into some sob story wherever she goes. The difference now, I don't care. I've got my life back. And she has nothing but the mess she made. Still, after everything she tried, a small part of me wonders, what's stopping her from trying again in a year or 5? I don't know if I'm free for good. I just know I'm finally breathing again. Follow me for more stories.